Booyakasha, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to AussieVerse. Thank you very much for taking some time and spending it with us today. I am one half of the hosts right now, OmniBeau, by Shane, my name, and this is Shane Sizzle, and for the first time on this show, we are joined by SK. I felt like I had to say your name with these, man. Because
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much for joining us today. How's everybody going? Are we having a great day?
Yeah.
It's the beginning of mine because I've got tomorrow off.
And show off. All right. So, those that don't know, SK, this guy right here, or is it over here? How StreamYard works. It's definitely not this guy. But anyway, he has his own Kickstarter out, and we're going to talk about it today. It is Terralympus, but before we get down and dirty with it, SK, tell the world who you are, if they don't already know, because we had a conversation before this, and you're a pretty popular guy outside of here. Take it away, bro.
No. Look, I try my best to keep a low profile. So the one thing I do, which I always like to highlight, is I'm a letterer. So I actually do lettering professionally. And I actually brought a couple of really cool samples to show you guys. And I'll show you, if you can share the screen, I'll show you the first panel that broke me. So this panel really just absolutely broke me. I had to cram all that dialogue onto one panel. And I'll explain all the tricks I did to get it to fit. So there's rule number one with lettering. And this is one rule that doesn't get broken. And that rule is you cannot cover somebody's face. Even if the face is in the shadow, you cannot cover it because you just don't do it. So you can kind of see here in the beginning. So when he says, holy sh, that double dash basically means he's being interrupted. So I was trying to save space. So if it's being interrupted, let's shove that balloon so that it overlaps just that little bit. And it follows the reading order. So it goes here to here, and then it goes down. Then it goes across to there. And I couldn't get the words to fit because I couldn't cover the guy's face. So I had to try to fit it into here. So the one thing I don't like to do all the time is the ellipsis to split the sentence up. Because one of the rules is if you can try to keep the sentence together, but if you can actually see the space where I had, there was no way that sentence was going to fit in one bubble. So I had to split it up. So the ellipsis here. And I had to try to fit this one in and it was really close to the edge. So I'm dancing here. And then it jumps to here and it goes through. So one thing I didn't like is I covered this guy's hand. But I would have to say, look, you know what? Give me a break because I couldn't fit anything more in there. But you can kind of see here. But the main thing about something like this is you have to keep the reading order. So you can kind of see the reading order doesn't change. So it still reads naturally and it still reads left to right. If you did manga lettering, which I do a little bit of, you flip everything. So it's right to left and top right to bottom left. But in standard Western comics, it's top left to bottom right. So just a little trick if you're ever making your own comic. If you want to hide a clue, let's say you're writing a murder mystery and you want to put, the murderer's murder weapon or something, and you want to hide it in a panel in plain sight. The best place to hide it is bottom left because your eyes will naturally draw from top left to bottom right. So you look that way. If you put it in the bottom left corner, the reader's eyes naturally don't draw that way. So if they don't, that's where you hide stuff. So if you ever want to do a murder mystery book and you want to hide clues, bottom left. Giving up some secret sauce here. So
yeah, man, this is stuff that I'd never even thought about.
Yeah, it's if you think about it in terms of even stage. If you think about it's actually very different from stage productions. Let's say if you were doing a stage production and you had people entering left and right, the most focal point of a stage is actually front of the stage, center. That's the most important position if you're doing a stage play. Comics are not a stage play, so the center is actually not the most important. Top left, the left is the most important, and bottom right. So it's a different way to that's why I love comics as a medium, because there's a lot of these little things that the medium doesn't teach you.
Wow.
Another little medium trick with comics is, and I think you guys are probably very aware of this, is something called a page turn. So not all pages are created equally. Page 1, bottom right panel, is the most important panel, because it's what it does. What it does is you want the person to physically turn the page. So imagine looking at page 1, you want them to turn the page. That's why page 2 of a comic is not as important as the odd pages. Even pages are not as important. Odd pages are more important. Odd pages final panel, the most important of them all, because every time you want it is to turn the page across. Now, if you turn the page across, you see the even page and the odd page. Now you need to do something in that bottom right panel of the odd page to get them to turn again.
Wow.
If they don't turn, you haven't hooked them enough to get them to keep reading your book. I'm not sure if you heard, you knew about page turns. But
no, not at all.
Yeah.
This is the science of comics, man. This is amazing.
Exactly. So all this is the analytics of it. It's what, if you write a novel, for example, what's the most important part of a novel in terms of the chapter? Last chapter of each panel is the most important, because what you want the person to do is go, you know what? I don't really need sleep. Sleep's not that important. I want to read one more chapter. Look, you might disagree with particular authors and you might not like their work, but the absolute true masters of that are Dan Brown and J.K. Rowling. Every end of chapter is, and then Harry was going to ... Oh my God, what happens? Or you found the clue to the blood of ... And it's one of those things. It makes you want to read the next chapter. Comics, odd pages are more important than even pages. And it's all these little tricks that if you're a good writer, you take advantage of the medium to do so. That's how come whenever if you're doing a writing for a comic, you always ask the first question: do you have a banner page? Because sometimes you need to shift it, because sometimes you have a chapter banner page, which means your even pages are important, not your odd, because you shift the book down. That's how come in most like when you, and I say this in most omnibuses, they don't put chapter breaks in there, because you put a chapter break, you shift all the page turns. You put one page there, all the page turns shift. So if you notice, omnibuses don't have chapter breaks. They have a cover and then they move on. You open an omnibus, you'll see what I mean. So that's one example of lettering where you're trying to cram as much in. So I was showing examples. This is the one where it's absolutely crazy, where we're cramming as much as we can in. This one is actually a bit more interesting. So one thing about lettering as well is you want to try to get it so it has the same flow. You notice how the nose goes up, down, up, down, up, down. Why? Because she's running down the hill. So as she's running down the hill, it follows how her run goes. So she goes no, 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 no. So it actually follows. But it's a thought process, but it actually follows as though she's running. So if you do lettering right, nobody notices. People will just assume things. They're going, yeah, that makes sense if you do it right. But the worst thing about bad lettering is people know the lettering is bad. So if there was a review of some of the works I've done, and I love reading those reviews, because if I don't get mentioned, I know I've done a good job. If I get mentioned, I know I've done a really bad job, because you're not meant to notice me. You're meant to, okay, it's all crammed in, but you're not meant to notice what I do. And there's two more examples, and then is this one. So this is where I'm helping the artist out a little bit here. So like I said, you start top left. So if you notice here, our speech bubble should be up here, because that's where you actually read. I put it across here because if you zoom in a little bit, the artist put a little figure here. But if it was top left, what would tend to happen is the reader will go from here straight down to this bubble, which means they miss this person here. Now, this person running to the alley, it's a good letter reads the story as well. So it's actually a story plot point. So I had to going, well, they need to know about this, go run into the alley. So that's why I put it here, so that it follows the reading order and it drives the different reading order. So if I put it up here, the reading order would have gone across and you would have missed this. If I put the bubble here, it goes down this way.
So for this particular two panels,
Yeah.
did the writer specifically request that you do it this way, or did you?
No, most times, and it's very, very rare. I've actually never seen a script. I'm not saying never. I've very, very rarely seen a script which have letter or directions in it. There's a lot of scripts which have artist directions, top view, and view, whatever, medium shot, long shot. They'll do all that. But and for colorists, there's actually a whole. Usually, you write a small little bible for the colorist to say this is, she's a blonde, she's a brunette, she's a redhead, or whatever. There's usually that. Very rarely do you have a lettering guide provided by the creator. So it's actually very important that you read the script and you kind of figure it out along the way. So
So with,
I wish they did.
with,
I
with
wish they
all
did
of these
something.
tips that you've mentioned, is there like a, a a proper rule book that you go?
There
Oh,
is there,
you,
there is a book, and I think it's by I'm gonna butcher his name. There's two sites. I would say one is Blambot, which is absolutely excellent for all the, and I think there is a book, the Guide to Lettering, and I'll get the details, and Bo can put it into the description below
is it?
after when writes the video description. Um, I can't remember the book off the top of my head, but it's a really good book in terms of explaining a lot of the rules. The main thing with a lot of the rules is understand why the rules are a certain way before you break them. Feel free to break the rules, but understand why you're breaking the rules. Like I broke the rule in this particular thing because I didn't go top left to start off with.
Mm.
But there is a reason for me to break the rules. I'll give you the last one, which I actually had really fun doing. Um, this one, the lettering actually shows what happens. So um, you can what will your mind will automatically think is this. You read this top panel, top balloon, you read the second balloon, he then wipes his mouth before continuing to talk. So
Mhm.
it does, if I, for example, if I put all these three balloons together into the left, what the implication is, he finishes talking and then he wipes. But in this case, he actually says the first two things. He stops, wipes his mouth before the final balloon. The reason for the pause is it makes it more dramatic. He says something that happened last year. Stop. That made the prices go down. It's a bit of a mystery. Um, it's he's trying to sell a haunted house basically in the story, but he's trying to explain what he's being very, very cagey about why the prices go down. But in context of the story, that pause is really important. So yeah, no, I'm really glad that you guys listen to me ramble because I love talking about this stuff. There's a million more things. I'm going to start talking about special effects and uh, layering and all the rest of it. But
That-
it,
this gives me a whole level of appreciation where the credits page, you see the writer, the artist, and the penciler, and then you see the letter. Oh, he just chooses the fonts and the font
usually, to
sizes.
be fair though, I don't usually choose the fonts. The fonts is actually something I don't usually have control over because usually if it's a publisher, you use their house fonts. They'll tell you, I need to use this, this, and this. So they like they want it the same look and feel. So they'll tell you what fonts to use. They'll tell you like the thickness of the balloons and stuff like that. They'll tell you all that stuff. So that's actually something you don't have much control over. But I have to say, my go-to font is the one I like is called Comic Craft Wild Words. It's the font for Wildstorm, which was the old DC font. So it was one of Jim Lee's fonts. So
Mm.
I love Jim Lee. So that's my go-to font. It's not a cheap font, I have to say.
It is elegant though.
I the one thing I do hate, I'm not hate such a that's a big word. I noticed there is a trend now to move away from the all caps font, where they start doing fonts uppercase and lowercase, especially with the
Oh,
X-Men and a lot of DC. A lot of DC not so much now, but Marvel started to move across that way. It's something which I don't like to do, mainly because, like I said, lettering needs to be as invisible as possible. Now, if you have up lowercase fonts, what happens is you have letters that go up and letters that go down. So like letter P goes down, letter T goes up. The problem then you have is your eyes, when they read it, naturally will go up and down slightly. And what will be really bad is if a T is directly underneath a P. So the tails will touch. And it's, for me, I just go, you know what? Make it all caps. You get rid of all the headaches. And the main thing about all this is you want to be invisible. You don't want to make anything draw your attention towards the lettering. Like I said before, if I get reviewed and nobody mentions the lettering in the work, I know I've done a good job. So,
wow, this is so much to think about that I've never thought about. Like even the fact that it's all caps, that is something that when you're writing a text message or basically any other text form other than comics, you take that as shouting or you're angry and it's a serious thing. Where with comics, you instinctively, like when I read them and see it all caps, it never even occurs to me that it's caps, and to not read it in an angry, yelling way. Not only that, but the pausing and the moving. So I think I'm in a category where I've realized in the last few years that most people that read comics are really art driven. They're all about the art, where I'm not. I'm really about the story, and I will read really, really quickly, and I will get through things really, really quickly. And because of that, I don't tend to focus a lot on the art and the little bits in between. So there's been a lot of comics where I've actually missed quite a bit, and I haven't realized it until someone like Sharif, for example, will say, "Oh, did you read in that X-Men comic, like the one that you showed, the woman running in the corner, for example?" I may have missed that and not even realized, but I've understood the whole story. So now I actually try to take my time a little bit. And I've noticed that with digital comics as well, because you can zoom in panel to panel, that helps somebody like myself a lot more, because you can't do that with a physical comic unless you like do that with yourself. Do what I'm saying making any sense?
Yeah.
So having this insight really makes you appreciate things a lot more. It's really fascinating.
and when you start reading, especially all the stuff, read for the page turns. Like I'm really serious. If especially a good writer, think about why you turn the page. Like I'm really serious when you start reading, especially manga doesn't do it as much because manga, the volume's a lot thicker, so they don't do page turns a lot. But a standard floppy is 22. They will give you at least 10 page turns in there, which is like one less than the whole comic. They'll give you, and if you notice, the stuff which isn't as important, they tend to jam into the second page, because if you think about it, you've turned the page already. You look at page 2 and 3. Page 2 is irrelevant to them. And that's where they hide, especially a good writer, that's where they will hide. If it was a detective story, that's where they hide it. And page 2s tend to be a lot more conversational, because that's where people just go, I'm going to read through page 2. I'm going to power through this because I want to see what happens at the end of page 3. Oh my God, something's going to happen. Flip it. Oh no, it's boring again. It gives it that little bit of roller coaster. And if
that's really cool.
Do have a read through it, because a good writer will build it up that way. There'll be a crescendo of build, not on the even pages, but on the odd pages. And
Jeez. That's again fascinating, because once upon a time in my youth, I used to think that I was somewhat of a decent writer, and no matter how much I would think I was good at creating a story or weaving a story or whatever the case may be, it would have never occurred to me to build up to a point that makes people flip a page, or as you said with J.K. Rowling and other people, to make sure the chapters end on a certain way. None of that would have ever occurred to me.
But look, to be fair, I really encourage you to write, because these are all technical bits. So if you have a good story, this part doesn't matter as much. because a good editor or somebody who knows their craft will go, hey, let me help you reconstruct this. But what they can't tell you is a good story. Like, for example, you might have a cyberpunk whatever. I can't. That's your imagination. I can't touch that. I can say, here's how you should structure it, and the tinker around the edges. We can, a good editor can do for you. A good editor is not your imagination. So if you have a good story, dude, write it down, write the outline, figure it out, because a good editor can guide you through that journey, and that's what makes your story technically good. But I cannot make a good story. There is a lot of technically good stories which are absolutely rubbish. Absolute rubbish. You just go, I can't believe they wrote this. But technically, hey, well done. Technically, thumbs up. You follow all the rules, but it's a crap story. So I'd rather have a good story that technically needs work than a bad story that's technically correct. So.
And this is why AussieVerse needs comic creators on its show, not just for content, because I want to learn this stuff. It's only been very recently that I've realized, like, you've got your common sense, and that everybody that works on a comic is important. So that the writer, the colorist, the editor, whatever, they're all important and they all do a certain job. But I'm not going to lie, there's a lot of those jobs that I don't really know exactly how important on the level they are in the comic. Like, for example, a recent a friend that I've made that's been on our show, Lee Chalker. I've seen a lot of his art, and I went from liking his art to loving his art to appreciating his art, because I've seen a lot of his drawings, and a guy like myself that I said that he doesn't focus on art, I would see that drawing for what it is, and I would judge it in my mind, good, bad, whatever. But then I saw something that he did recently compared to the grey drawings, and it was all the thick black lines and all the thick black, and basically I realized, hang on, that's why an inker is so important, because it makes the drawing bold and stand out and do all that stuff. So all of this is absolutely fascinating. I always knew what an editor was, but I didn't really know that, if you're a good writer, an editor can do that sort of stuff for the comic. So
100%. That's why I always say, look, when you write your script, and look, I've got editors who I had almost an editor quit on me once. So funny story. So I killed off a character, like in one of my series. I killed her off in the script, and the editor basically said to me, "If she dies, I quit." Flat out. If she dies, I quit. I was going, but she has to die. No, she doesn't. She dies. She dies. We shake hands. We move on with our lives. Thank you very much. I'm going, but can we talk about this? No. So, sometimes it's real. And the thing was, she then explained, and I don't want to get too much spoilery because I haven't released this one yet. She then explained why she doesn't need to die. And she asked the question, why did you kill this character? And I said, oh, it's because it will impact these other things. And she's going, you don't need to do that. And having that type of editor to actually come structurally to go, if you do that, you actually change the structural tone, this, and that's why she needs to live. Now, if you choose to kill her, that's fine. I walk, but if she lives, we can keep talking. But it's one of those things. Look, a good editor will actually basically say, maybe not quitting, but at least tell you structurally, hey, look, you can't, doing this at this point doesn't help you. And she actually did say, like, if she dies down the track, kill her, what do I care? But not right now. Because, like, for example, I don't know if you're a fan of Green Lantern. So there was Kyle Rayner and Hal Jordan, the infamous woman in the refrigerator syndrome.
Yeah, yes.
So it's actually right now considered very, very lazy writing. Even back then, it was considered very lazy writing. How do you motivate the hero? Take the girlfriend, shove her in the fridge. So that's how Kyle Rayner got motivated to become good. even the Batman scenario, why did he do it? He just killed the parents. Like a lot of it is actually very lazy writing because it's very how do you say? You're forcing a hero to become a hero through external forces, and so oh man, I'm going to story crafting here a little bit. Act one of every protagonist, and if you watch a movie and you can tell a good at least a technically good writer from a technically bad writer from this one aspect of Act One. If the hero in Act One has to do something because circumstances make him do it, technically that's a bad writer. The hero has to make a choice. If the hero doesn't make a choice, if they're dragged along for the ride, that's not a good hero. The hero in Act One has to make a choice. I want to do this, and I'm going to pick on The Force Awakens a little bit. What and from a technical standpoint, Rey in the first act, when she gets attacked or whatever, she doesn't make a choice. She gets, oh man, I'm being attacked. I got to get off the planet. Oh, I'm off the planet. Because if I don't get off the planet, I'm going to kill. That's actually a really bad choice because Rey doesn't make the decision. This is what I want to do. Now compare that with the Luke Skywalker in The New Hope. The difference with Luke is he actually makes the choice to leave the planet. He goes, you know what? I want adventure. I want to see this. Obi-Wan's promising me all this, a new life, excitement. I'm going to make a choice to leave. So it's a small distinction, but it makes a world of difference in characterization because now Luke has the intrinsic, so the intrinsic desire to leave, and a lot of his changes then become intrinsic within himself to make the changes, to become the hero, to become good, to become bad, or whatever. It's an internal choice. Rey leaving, she was basically forced off. It's like, I'm being chased, I'm going to leave. So there is no choice that she made. So every choice she makes after that, you question because it's like, are you doing it because you're a good person or because the situation's forcing you to do something? So, and it, from an audience or reader standpoint, because they don't make a choice, you automatically in your head disassociate and are not as invested. Now, if you make a choice, you go, I'm invested in a character. The character's forced to do it, meh, they don't really care. If nothing happened, she wouldn't have left the planet. That's a big distinction, the whole choice thing. And I don't know if a lot of superheroes also, that's where Spider-Man actually is really interesting because he makes the choice to go after the killer. Like there's a difference between Batman and Spider-Man. Batman never finds his killer for a long time. Spider-Man's focal point is, okay, sure, something happened to his Uncle Ben, but what made him the hero was when he went after the robber, Sandman, or if you go back far enough, there's the other different robber, but he makes a choice not to kill him. That's what makes him a hero. And that's where Batman is slightly different, that he doesn't make a choice. He's kind of like forced into it. It's like, my parents died. He never makes, and that's how come Batman's no-kill rule isn't quite as impactful as Spider-Man's no-kill rule. Because Spider-Man chose not to kill the robber, Batman never was facing the decision really early of not to kill. And that's, again, different characters, very different writing. And where you're invested. So that's how come Spider-Man is much more a relatable hero. And that's how come you talk to a lot of people. Batman's always, oh, I'm super cool, uber cool, People relate to him that way. But people relate to Spider-Man as, oh, I'm down on my luck. And they actually relate to him as a person. You can't relate to Bruce Wayne. You can relate to Peter Parker. Anyway, story crafting. If you ever want to go down that rabbit hole.
You heard it here first, people. Peter Parker is more relatable than Bruce Wayne.
It's not even a hot take to say that. It's much easier to think. I was Peter Parker, but very few people will be thinking. So it's that's where DC and Marvel actually is slightly different. DC is very aspirational. If you look at a lot of how DC writes his books, it's Superman, the mythos, the gods, Wonder Woman. You look up to them, as opposed to Marvel, which is always I could be one of them.
Yeah.
So that's a very different, right or wrong. But I find that if you create relatable characters, you get the hook a lot deeper into the reader, and they would tend to link up with relatable characters more than they can link up to aspirational characters. Anyway,
Wow. Hey,
that's my theory crafting.
there are so many questions I want to ask you, but we're already going at half an hour, so let's move on. Hey, seriously, let's bring you back on, SK, and we will
Yeah.
talk more about some stuff, because I'm not kidding. There's more stuff I want to ask you, bro. So let's move on. Terralympus. Let's have a look, shall we?
Sure.
Let's see here. Okay. Well, be good if we start at the top.
Please don't judge the video too badly. I did it.
All right. Take us through this.
Okay. So, firstly, it's the fourth issue, the fourth installment in the series. But I always say this, and I do this with all my Kickstarters, is I want things read, and I want to try to build an audience. So, if you back on any of the physical tiers, you get digitals of 1 to 4, so you can catch up digitally. The story is there. I want you guys to read it. That's what I always say. So if you look at that big important note right in the middle, basically every tier except for the first tier has digital copies of 1 to 3 included. And I think that's really important, because I want you to be able to jump in. I don't want a situation, up to the fourth issue, I don't know whether to jump in or not. Hey, just jump in, because we've got everything covered for you.
That's really cool.
So Terralympus is actually a bit of fun. So the Earth is gone. We haven't explained why it's gone yet. It will get explained, and it's what we consider. I always talk about it's really dirty sci-fi, as opposed to say Star Trek, which is very clean sci-fi. Everything is nice. It's pristine. Terralympus is held together by bubblegum and string, and it's just functioning, because as you can probably imagine. So one of the most important aspects is it's not the commanders, it's not the soldiers, it's the engineers. So a lot of discussions actually go with how the space station actually works or how it functions. So a lot of it is really, and for people who do know me, I love data. I love information. I love to try to figure stuff out. So a lot of Terralympus is that aspect of it. It's about the data, and it's about how things work. So there is action sequences and all the rest of it, but a lot of it is why things happen the way they do. So we follow the protagonist, whose name is Mia. So she's an engineer, and the story actually starts with Mia discovering something she shouldn't have, and that's where this is in book 1. Her first decision is, what do I do with this information? So she has a choice. Does she make the right choice or the wrong choice? As the reader, you can debate it. But she makes a choice, and that choice basically starts the whole chain of events of what happens afterwards. And if you zoom into that panel that she's just whispering to herself, just that one. So if you zoom in a bit, you can see her a lot saying, you know what, one of Mia's catchphrases. And as a writer, I do like to give people catchphrases. So if you ever read my work, you can probably pick the catchphrase. She likes to fix things, and she's finally realized she's actually done something she can't fix. As an engineer, she's always, how do I solve this? And she comes in from a very logical, analytical mind, and she's thinking, have I done something, or have I made a choice now that I can't fix? And there's conspiracies about the space station. That's why Earth is gone, and there's all this little mysteries. The one thing that I have to say did bug me a little bit is somebody actually did review issue 1 a while back, and they said something about, hey, the writer said this. I bet that's important. And I just going, God damn it! I thought I hit that. I didn't want you to say that, because he basically said, oh, that's a Chekhov's gun. That something's going to happen with that. I'm going, damn it! So it was actually a really key plot point, which I thought I hit really well. And he picked it, and he's going, you know what? It's all linked to this one thing, and I'm going, damn it. So if you do back and you do check it out, I hope you do find it. But what I really do hope is you read volume 4 and you go, oh my God, it was in volume 1. The gig was up in volume 1.
Yeah.
But yeah, the person who read volume 1 basically just gave it all away. He was like, oh yeah, it has to be this, and this. And I'm going, damn it.
So let's go through these
Yeah.
tiers here. We've got $9, the PDF for volume 4 and more.
Yep. So the other thing would be is I know with digital, that's the whole thing about digital of you're not getting something. Well, the one good thing is about being a creator is there's so many other great people out there. So that and more is actually a lot of issues. And when you scroll down, I'll show you a lot more. I should have just repeated it, but I on average I give out close to 500 pages of additional digital comics to read.
Wow.
So when you read it for $9, you get a lot. And I have to thank all the other creators who actually do contribute to it. We have a print volume at the 28 tier. We also give limited edition things. So the main thing would be is a lot of these, the main cover, we do distribute and go to publishers afterwards, and they turn up in libraries. But the variants, the limited edition cards, we only tend to give out as part of the Kickstarter. So it gives people who do support us to start off with a good chance to get stuff they'll never get. We have original sketches by the artist, and we have sketch tiers as well. So one of the things I actually stole this from Sean from Comics to Movies from XCT, is they can do a custom cover where your likeness can appear on this custom cover, and we find that a really fun reward to give out.
Yeah.
So if you scroll down a bit more, you can kind of see here. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different issues. Like Wordsmith is 40 pages, Exilium is I think 30 something pages. The Werewolf one is about 60 pages, and Waterworld is about 30 pages. So even in there's about 200 pages already, and there's more still to come as well. So the other thing, which I've actually been really lucky, the printer which I use in Australia has just done foil covers. So Shane, I don't know if you know this, but Comic Book on Demand, which is the printer I use, has just introduced foil, and they are amazing. So they look really good. I'm testing it out for the first time on this campaign. So the Dave cover, the one in the middle, comes foiled. So if anybody wants that. The reason I chose the Dave cover to foil is because of that bright white light behind it. The samples of the foils I've done is that if there is a distinction between dark and light, those pop like crazy. So that's the reason I chose that one, because of that bright white light behind it. We do give out cards, like little business size cards, A5 cards, as well as original sketches. And the sketches are remarked sketches, so there's a little bit of color added to it. So you can kind of see they just added that's done on watercolor, so you get a yellow hair in it.
Yeah, right. That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, they look really cool frames. I feel bad about giving them away because I want to keep as many as I can. We do have additional add-ons, which is if you want extra cards, extra prints, past volumes, and all the rest of it, they're all available as additional add-ons. I always joke about this, but I'm really also humble, and so that's why the creative team section is very small. The team is absolutely amazing. The old Terralympus artist, his name is Von Randall. Terralympus was his first gig, which I'm really, really happy to give to him. he now works for Image. He does Spawn, he does Gunslinger Spawn, and he actually does work for IDW for Transformers now. So unfortunately, I lost him for this volume, but he's on to bigger and better things. So all the best for him. Stretch goals. So we have if we hit either 400 backers or $12,000, everybody gets this square card of Mia, as well as we also give the digital copy of the high-res digital copy file of this image. So you can do whatever you like with it. It's yours to use. As well as we're giving more digital comics away, XCT0 and Dusk Switch as well. I've just finished that Switch from Morgan Quaid. I really enjoyed it. It was really well to me. Before the end of it, there will be more digital stuff given away. We'll try to throw in a couple more prints. But yeah, it's with everybody's support that I can keep telling stories, and I absolutely always appreciate it.
And this is also the first Kickstarter I've seen where the extra issues I've actually read, and I can honestly say that they're great. XCT, I read years ago. There's been a few issues that I've got from them. Sean is an absolute gentleman, absolute great guy. Duskbridge Morgan Quaid is an absolute. We've had him on the show before. Absolutely skilled person. Sean, we've had, I think, on a previous, before AussieVerse was created, we had him on another show. So Sean, if you're watching, come back, bro.
I'll give a shout out to Sean as well. So Sean's actually, Sean, this is actually a shared project between me and Sean as well. So look, it's been absolutely fun working with him on this one. So Sean, look, salt of the earth. He's an absolute great guy. I cannot shout him out enough. So
let's see here. You want 12,400 backers. Where are you right now?
So I believe
346 backed.
So if go up higher, I think it's right up the top. So right up the top. It takes a while to scroll. So
there you go.
We've just hit. It's been live for about a week. So it's about I usually run it for about 4 weeks. We are at 8 and 200. The previous campaign, we had. So campaign 2, we had 397 backers. Campaign 3, we had 283. Oh God, I just want to cross 400. And I'll be honest with you. That's the biggest metric that interests me. Look, do I want more money? Yeah, sure, everybody does. I'm not going to turn more money down. Let's put it out there. But it's people who back. I just want that audience of people who go, you know what? I'm interested enough in the story to go, hey, I'll give it a go. And for me, I do post this question up every once in a while. Right? I would trade what they call percentage funded for percentage backed. I would much prefer a huge backer number and less money than the other way around, because I'll say this: we're all I do this for storytelling. I do this to tell a story, and if people read the story, that's what makes me happy. That's why I try to get my work into as many libraries as possible. And my app, look, I'll be honest with you, I do stalk libraries a little bit, the catalogs. And when I see my books out on loan, oh man, I'm just happy. I just imagine what the person's thinking reading it. So that makes me so happy to see.
Which is actually true, because before the show, he actually Googled the library closest to me, and he found that his own books were there. And one of us already borrowed it.
It was on loan. It was like, yes. And
so let's see here. So Terralympus Volume 4 is the latest installment in the epic sci-fi series. Senior engineer Mia finds herself on a prisoner of the space station Hades. How will she get out of this situation? And finally, the revelation of what happened to Earth all those many years ago. Is it 50 pages?
It's 50. I always put 2BC because what happens in the process is sometimes you might go, God, we need to add something more, bits and pieces. But that's why. But it's a bit of fun. It tends to grow. The page count tends to grow. It doesn't tend to go the other way. So yeah. I hope you do check it out, because I love the story. I love Mia. I think she's one of the most fantastic characters, mainly because more than anything else, she's like most times sci-fi, you're looking at the hero. You know, the hero is the captain, the commander, the first officer, or whatever. This is the engineer. This is the guy who fixes things. So, it's a very different perspective.
I always love to put Sharif on the spot and embarrass him by saying, Sharif, if you had to pick one cover right now, which one would you pick? Would it be this main cover? Would it be the variant foil cover? Or would it be the variant Arturo cover? Which one stands out to you off the top of your head?
Probably the third one.
Third one?
Yeah, the one with the planet in the background.
Jane, which one would you pick?
Foil.
Foil?
I mean, I'll think about it first. Let me think.
The Arturo cover is interesting because he's actually a guy, Melbourne artist. I don't know if you heard him.
Oh, right. Okay. I like the main cover a lot because I love the faces where it's like a movie poster. But I've got to admit, foil and a nice butt is very hard to do. Let's be real. Come on. So yeah, mate, I've got to be honest with you, man. I am super, super keen to get into these. So I'll definitely be backing this myself.
Oh, look, thank you. Thanks for the support. And look, thanks for having me on. And thanks for letting me just ramble because you get me started on. There's two topics that if anybody gets me started on, and Shane knows this, I can go for about a couple of hours. And I'm serious, hours. One of them is lettering theory behind lettering, and examples and all the rest of it. And the second one is story theory. So I can't give you ideas for a story. I'm sorry, that's not. I can give you hints of what gives you ideas, and the hints are basically do a lot of reading and do a lot of observation. What you find is ideas come from things you notice and things you read, and you kind of ingest, and your brain tends to do something weird with it, and then it spits out an idea. But story crafting, like decision points, the act breakdowns, if you follow the hero's journey, you have to put the hero in despair at one point, all that I absolutely love because I've always said this more than anything else: understand the rules and then break them, and when you break them for a reason. Like you go, okay, I'm breaking the rule here because of this. You're subverting expectations. You want to confuse the audience. You want to twist something around. Look, by all means, break the rules, but understand them first, and then you understand why you break and do that. And it's fascinating. The theory behind storytelling. It's like, come on, we've been telling stories for 50,000 years as a species.
Does it affect your process in terms of the time spent for any particular chapter or particular issue? Say between 1 and 4, how long did that take individually?
The main thing is it's actually faster for me now because writing one, I'll start with story crafting rule number 1, which is things: know how your story ends. Even like, don't forget about how the story starts. Know how it ends. So when I wrote 1, I kind of know how it ends. So it took a long time because I was trying to figure out all these things, all these pieces that they fit through. And after you figured it all out, which takes the bulk of time, 2, 3, and 4, you're basically just slotting, okay, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen. From a character point of view or a plot point of view, you're slotting all these things in. But you didn't know where the journey is going to finish up. So I get asked the question on Terralympus a lot. Yes, I know how it ends. And I'm not going to tell you who lives or dies, but I know who lives or dies. So unless somebody comes back to me and says, you can't kill this person.
I was just about to say, when the editor steps in and moves the puzzle pieces around, would everything still fit?
That's where you get, because sometimes, and this is where when you're writing, it's always good to have a good editor. And in this case, I bounce a lot of ideas on Sean because Terralympus is Sean and my little baby. The one thing that's really important is that you are usually too close to your own work to notice, because you, as the direct creator, you make a lot of assumptions. You make a lot of, yeah, they'll get that, or the. I was doing another job with somebody once, and what he expected me to understand, like basically the story muddled along, and then suddenly two Deus Ex things happened. So two things just magically happened, and I said to him, look, those two things that happened, you never hinted at it. It just popped up, and he goes, yeah, I hinted at it like 5-6 times. I'm going, I've read the thing. I don't know when it is. It's here. And I'm going, I didn't get it. I didn't pick any of the hints up. And that's sometimes when you're too close to it. You're thinking you're giving. Look, to be fair, I'm a dumb reader. I'll be real. I'm the type of reader or things. If you want to drop a hint, hit me over the head with it. Just go, bam,
Yes.
bam. Pick this up. Like I'm not the type who goes, oh, if I link A and B and then C and D, and I don't do that. It's like, you're gonna drop a hint, just drop the hint and make it. And I said, look, it's up to you, because I'm the type of reader who won't pick up the hints. If you want to appeal to my type of reader, you have to make it a bit more obvious. And I said, it's up to you. I'm just giving my advice. Or if you would like the people to have the clues, and that type of reader who loves to dig into the panels, dig into the words, dig into every statement they say and try to twist it, they'll get it. I won't. And understand which audience you're trying to hit. And it's not right or wrong. So when we refit the puzzle pieces with Sean and things, it's fine, because then he can actually say to me, I didn't get this. And if he didn't get it and he's a co-creator, I need to make it more obvious. And it's where, and you can bounce it. That's why it's always good to have this creative team around you to bounce ideas off, because there's so many times when the creator is way too close to their work. And I've always said this, if you're too close to your work, you make assumptions which other readers will make the same assumption on.
Jeez, it's funny you say that you need to be hit over the head with clues. You got to see me playing Spider-Man 2 at the moment, like. And like, I apologize about that sound. That was my alarm telling me to go to bed, because I'm an old man now and I need sleep. So in saying that, we're going to end the show now. SK, this scene, absolutely fantastic. It's better than I could have hoped. You are a fascinating human being. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And I honestly meant it. Please come back, because we have so much more to talk about. So when you're ready, hit us up and we'll have you back here.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
If you do want to come on the show, anybody that is a comic creator, a comic colorist and editor, as I like to say, inkerer, or even if you're not a comic creator, you're just somebody that's in the pop culture world and you want to show off your collection, you want to have anything to do with showing off anything that you have, or if you just want to talk about stuff, hit up Sharif, hit up myself. Come on down, because AussieVerse is going to be here for a very long time, as we do like to say. Sharif, what's the saying?
I think it's for life.
Right. And if you don't know who Comx are, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something, brother. Comx is the greatest thing that Australia has ever put out, because without them, there wouldn't be this hub that gets together, sells the comics, packages the comics, and informs the audience out there about all of Australia's comic creators. Because not only do they have their own website that points out where you can buy all these comics, not only their own, but other comics with all the shops in Australia, with the comics that they also put out, it's one flat shipping rate. And I tell you, that does not happen at other comic book stores. The more you buy, the heavier the shipping, and therefore the more you're paying for. Not with Comx. One flat shipping rate. So go check them out, because if you want to know more about Kickstarters, you want to know more about indie comics, go check out Comx, because not only can I pimp them enough, they sponsor this show. And if that's not enough for you, hear this guy talk about them, because this hippie guy knows what he's talking about.
This show is sponsored by the Comx Shop. Check out comx.cx for all things Comx and find out what Comx is all about. We hope you enjoyed the show.